They found his teeth before they found his name. Rain slicked the alley behind 132nd Street as sirens wailed like wolves in mourning. The cops had stumbled on a body dumped like garbage, jaw shattered, fingernails ripped out, tongue carved with the initials AV. Nobody heard the shots, but the trail of blood spelled a message. Someone wanted this man erased from memory. Detective Callahan crouched by the corpse, eyes narrow under his fedora. "This ain't random," he muttered. "This is a statement." Nearby, a burner phone buzzed from under a bloodied shoe. The screen flashed one final time, "Unknown caller." That's when everything shifted. The precinct was warned. Back off, or face the list. A list whispered about for months, names of insiders, cops, city council members marked for silence. As the rain drowned Harlem in silver and shadow, the story began with a corpse, and a secret no one was supposed to survive. Ava Montclair had never run before. Not from lovers, not from lies, not from the men who put bullets in her father's head. But tonight, she ran barefoot down Avenue C, her silk dress soaked, her eyes bloodshot. She'd answered the call. She'd heard her brother's scream. Now, every step echoed like a gunshot in her chest. Her family was supposed to be untouchable, old New York royalty tangled in real estate, politics and secrets. But the voice on the phone said only 5 words. "You're on the list, Ava." She didn't ask which list. She knew. Everyone in the underworld knew. The hit list wasn't myth anymore. And if her brother was the first name crossed off, she was next. Her heels lay shattered on a curb behind her. Her world cracked open like his jaw. The Montclair brownstone sat quiet, too quiet. Ava pushed open the front door with trembling fingers, greeted only by silence and the scent of iron. The hallway light flickered overhead, casting long shadows over broken picture frames and shattered faces. Her brother, Vincent, wasn't there. But his blood was. A thick smear led down the hallway, stopping at a wall where a message had been written in red. Payback. Her knees buckled. She was supposed to have protected him. Vincent had been trying to go clean, digging into the real estate records of the council, mapping where the city money disappeared. He found something. Something worth dying for. Detective Callahan lit a cigarette on the courthouse steps, wind tugging at his coat. The file in his hand was Vincent Montclair's personal dossier, dozens of pages redacted, pages that had no right being redacted. He got close, Callahan whispered. Too close. On the inside, council members were scrambling, pretending not to know his name. But in the mayor's office behind a locked steel door, a second list was being created. Not just who had to die, but who had to kill. The phone in Callahan's pocket buzzed. One name lit up the screen. Sparrow. A ghost from his past. And if Sparrow was back, the blood hadn't even started to flow. In the dark heart of the East River docks, beneath rusting cranes and dead gulls, a meeting was already underway. 5 men, each more powerful than the last, stood in silence around a steel briefcase. "The trial's a formality," one said. "The real war starts now." Inside the briefcase, names, photos, maps, a councilwoman's address, a judge's daughter's school schedule, a signature in red ink, S. Sparrow. They weren't cleaning up loose ends. They were erasing futures. And Ava Montclair's photo sat on top. Wind howled between the shipping containers as the briefcase snapped shut. War had been declared, and not even the dead would rest easy. Ava sat in her brother's old apartment, the air heavy with dust and guilt. The walls were lined with boxes labeled zoning, shell core, and council disbursements. It wasn't just corruption, it was architecture for laundering lives. Vincent had mapped every shady dollar from Harlem to Hell's Kitchen. On the wall, red strings connected politicians, judges, construction moguls, and one familiar face. Callahan? She stared at it in disbelief. He'd been her father's favorite cop. Ava whispered, "You knew." Her voice cracked. Vincent had trusted her with his findings, but she'd brushed it off, too afraid to believe their empire was built on blood. Now, she was in the middle of a conspiracy that had claimed her brother's life. She could cry later. Tonight, she dug deeper. Detective Callahan tossed back a glass of bourbon in his Bronx apartment, staring at the old newspaper clippings taped to his fridge. Councilman Alvarez murdered, East Side Development bribery scandal. He ran a hand through his graying hair. Sparrow was supposed to be dead. The guy had vanished after the 8th sting. But if he was making moves again, signing kill list, it meant something bigger was coming. Callahan knew the Montclairs weren't saints, but Vincent was clean. A good kid, trying to fix the sins of his family. And now Ava was out there alone. Callahan said to himself, I should have warned them. He picked up his service revolver and slipped it into his coat. The streets were colder now, and full of ghosts. At a diner near the Hudson, Ava met with Tony, the crate dealio, a retired enforcer turned informant. He was greasy, gold-toothed, and smelled like cologne and regret. Vincent was close, Tony said between sips of black coffee. Too close to the council's demolition contracts. You think they tear down buildings for fun? He slid her a flash drive. Names, bank routes, kill orders. I kept it in case they came after me. They never did. I ain't worth the bullet. Ava asked. Why now? Tony looked up, eyes full of something hollow. Because you still believe in justice. I stopped believing years ago. He got up and left without a word. The flash drive burned in her hand like a loaded gun. The flash drive cracked open a vault of digital rot, blackmail videos, fake permits, surveillance footage of judges in private clubs. One file chilled Ava to her spine. Her brother, recorded in a basement, gagged and bloodied, whispering names, while a masked figure pressed a knife to his ribs. The list, it's inside the zoning blueprints, Vincent had said. Another video showed Councilman Reyes in a penthouse, taking a briefcase and shaking Sparrow's hand. Wow. Ava slammed her laptop shut, bile rising. They weren't just killing people. They were filming it. Selling it. Her brother wasn't a casualty. He was a message. And now she had the footage to burn it all down. In the middle of the night, Ava visited her father's grave. A black umbrella shielded her from the relentless rain, but nothing could shield her from guilt. I should have protected him, she whispered. The cemetery was empty, save for wind and memory. Her father had once ruled the streets with an iron handshake and 1,000 favors owed. But it hadn't protected Vincent. Or her. She placed the flash drive at the base of the headstone for a moment, then pocketed it. This ends with me, she said. Thunder cracked overhead. Behind her someone watched from the trees, tall, silent, cigarette lit. But when she turned, no one was there. Just smoke curling in the wind. The city began to tremble, not with earthquakes but with secrets unraveling. That morning, Councilwoman Ortega's car exploded in Midtown. No warning, no survivors. The media called it a terrorist act, but Callahan knew better. Someone's cleaning house, he growled, watching the flames from the precinct's rooftop. Ava sent him the flash drive anonymously, and the footage scorched his conscience. He saw himself in one of the files, back when he took orders he pretended not to hear. Pharaoh wasn't just erasing threats. He was exposing past sins. And now the crew that once protected the council had turned on itself. Callahan lit another cigarette, the fire briefly lighting his regret. You want war? He said to the skyline. Let's bleed. Inside City Hall, chaos bloomed. Council members shouted over one another, red-faced and terrified. We were promised immunity, one yelled. Security teams swept the building twice, but no one trusted the silence. Ava watched from the mezzanine, hidden beneath a maintenance uniform. She saw the fear, real, raw. Men who thought they ruled the streets now trembling at shadows. She slipped a thumb drive into a janitor's panel and triggered the audio. Vincent's last confession. His voice echoed through the chamber like a ghost. You think you're safe behind offices and titles, but you're not. I found you. One by one. Screams followed. And Ava walked out, unnoticed, a tear on her cheek and fire in her chest. That night, Detective Callahan met Ava at an abandoned subway station beneath Canal Street. It was where her father once ran black market deals and parole-busting smuggling rings. Now, it was just rats, rot, and history. "You really want to finish what Vincent started?" Callahan asked. "This list, it's a death sentence," Ava replied. "Then let's make it mutual." She handed him the original zoning maps with names scratched in blood. Judges, officers, media heads. "You leak these, we burn them all." Callahan stared at her. Same fire in her eyes her father once had, but sharper. Less forgiving. "All right," he said. "Let's rewrite the ending." The next leak hit the morning news like a thunderclap. Channel 12 showed a blurred image of Councilman Reyes exchanging cash in a Chinatown backroom, the timestamp undeniable. Panic spiraled across every borough. Arrests began. A judge fled the country. A police captain retired, overnight. But the city didn't breathe easier. It shivered. Ava sat in a Brooklyn cafe, watching it all unfold on a cracked TV. "They know it's me," she said aloud. A man across the room stood too quickly, hand twitching toward his belt. She ducked. Gunfire tore through the windows. Customers screamed. She crawled toward the back exit, blood on her sleeve, not hers. War was here. The list was no longer secret. It was a battleground. Sparrow's men, once silent killers, now hunted anyone close to exposure. Safe houses went up in flames. Whistleblowers vanished. Even Tony the Crate was found hanging from a bridge with a card in his mouth. Next, Ava's photo was splattered on the news beside the word fugitive. Her allies were thinning, but she moved faster now, thinking sharper. Every alley was a trap. Every phone call, a risk. Callahan set her up with a contact, someone who owes me his life. She stepped into the shadows of an abandoned church to meet him. "You're late," a voice said. A loaded pistol clicked in the dark. The man in the church was Andre Vega, once a hitman, now a ghost. Long thought dead in a warehouse fire. He had faked it. "I burned everything to stay gone," he said, voice gravel. "But Vincent found me, told me I was still needed." He revealed the final page of the list. Every signature matched a vote. Every vote tied to a death. Sparrow's not just eliminating people, he's buying a seat at the top. Ava's hands shook. "Then why help me?" Andre shrugged. "Because Sparrow tried to kill me twice. Third time's tradition." They shook hands. That night, Ava had a soldier. But she also had a target on her back wider than ever. Back at the precinct, Callahan stared at a wall of mugshots. One face now stood out, his old partner, Frank Delaney. Retired years ago. Or so he thought. He pulled up archive surveillance from the courthouse. There, in the background of Rhea's murder, was Delaney. Still alive. Still moving pieces. He wasn't dead. He was Sparrow. Callahan's breath left him. All this time, the ghost he feared wasn't a new devil. It was an old friend. He picked up his phone. "We need to talk," he told Ava. "You're not hunting a myth. You're hunting someone who trained me." Ava paced the motel floor, heart in her throat. Delaney died of Sparrow.C. Her godfather. He used to read her bedtime stories. Now he was orchestrating death. "He watched Vincent die," she whispered. The rage boiled up. She smashed the motel lamp with her elbow, darkness swallowing the room. "We end this," she said. "Tonight." She and Vega loaded their weapons, blueprints in hand, locations circled in blood. Their target, the old armory on Pier 49. That's where Sparrow kept his records. That's where this all ends, or they do. Callahan was already en route, badge traded for a shotgun. 3 broken people with one goal, end the architect of it all. They stormed the armory just after midnight. The place was empty, too empty. Ava's instincts screamed. It's a trap. But it was too late. Metal doors slammed shut. Gas hissed from vents. Vega shot at the lock, while Callahan pried open a breaker box. "He's watching," Ava yelled, scanning for cameras. In a hidden chamber, a screen flickered to life. Delaney appeared, older but unchanged, smile like a blade. "Hello, Ava," he said. "You inherited more than your father's face." The chamber erupted. Gas ignited. Fire lit the sky. They barely escaped. But the war had changed. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was survival. Outside the burning armory, Ava collapsed to her knees. Callahan's face was bleeding. Vega limped, dragging a scorched duffel bag. Inside, Sparrow's ledgers, miraculously intact. Ava gripped them like scripture. "He wants us scared," she said. "Let's be terrifying instead." Delaney hadn't just burned bridges. He'd built them, with corpses and contracts. But they had his book now. Every deal. Every betrayal. Ava stood, silhouetted by the fire behind her. "We go public." Callahan nodded. Vega chambered around. The old rules were dead. In their place stood the daughter of a mob king, a haunted cop, and a man with nothing left to lose. The courtroom was packed, press, protesters, and politicians pretending not to sweat. Ava walked through the double doors like a storm, Vega at her flank, Callahan limping behind. The ledgers had been handed to the DA, and now they were evidence. Sparrow's real name, Delaney, was on record. So were 39 others, judges, cops, CEOs. The trial wasn't for Vincent's death. It was for every lie dressed as policy. Delaney didn't show. His attorney claimed grave illness, but everyone knew he was circling the exits. "Still," Ava testified, her voice steady, "my brother was tortured for what he uncovered. You called it redevelopment. It was organized crime with a city permit." Silence followed. History bent in the room that day. "Wad Findle." Delaney finally made his move. At 2:14 a.m., two marshals escorting a witness were found dead in their car, throats slit, eyes untouched. A calling card was left behind, a red feather. Callahan's phone rang, no ID. "He's scared," Vega said. "Which makes him lethal." They knew he'd never face trial willingly. "So we flush him out," Ava decided. They leaked his name to the press, added his picture to the morning broadcast. "He wants the shadows," she said. "Let's give him a spotlight." Across the city, phones buzzed. Delaney had gone from ghost to headline. Now, they just had to survive long enough to catch him. Delaney struck first. Callahan's apartment erupted at dawn, windows blown out, fire scorching the skyline. He crawled from the rubble, coughing blood, ears ringing. Vega pulled him out by the collar, both men barely alive. "He's hunting us now," Callahan gasped. Ava watched from a nearby rooftop, sniper scope on the getaway car. She fired. Glass shattered. The driver slumped. But Delaney wasn't inside. "A decoy. He's using our moves against us," Vega cursed. Ava clenched her jaw. "Then we stop playing chess. We start playing fire." The war wasn't about justice anymore. It was personal. They found Delaney's bunker beneath an abandoned theater on Delancey Street. "I'll be so," hidden behind a false wall, packed with screens, weapons, and contracts signed in blood. It was a shrine to power, photos of every person he'd destroyed, each crossed off with red ink. "This isn't an operation," Ava said. "It's an obsession." Delaney stepped from the shadows, pistol drawn. "You were never supposed to outlive your brother," he said. Callahan shot first, missed. Delaney fired, hit Vega in the shoulder. Chaos exploded. Ava tackled him, wrestled the gun free, eyes burning. "This is for Vincent," she hissed. Then silence. One shot. Delaney fell. Delaney's body lay cold. The list was out. The city, already cracked, began to split. Headlines called it the Council Purge. More resignations came in 24 hours than in the past decade. Well, Ava stood on the courthouse steps, surrounded by flashbulbs and fury. "I didn't do this for justice," she said. "I did it because my brother died for telling the truth." Reporters swarmed. But Ava walked away. No more spotlights. No interviews. She passed Callahan and Vega without a word. They didn't stop her. In this city, heroes didn't survive long. But survivors? They walked alone, with scars as currency. Ava never looked back. Weeks passed. The city calmed, but it never healed. Every skyline silhouette now held the memory of smoke. Ava sat alone in Vincent's favorite park, where the autumn leaves whispered against empty benches. She reread his final journal, its last line etched into her like a scar. "They win when we stay quiet." She traced it with her fingers, heart heavy. She didn't win. She survived. Justice came at the cost of normalcy. Her face was no longer hers. It belonged to the headlines, to the myths. Children pointed. Old men nodded. She wasn't Ava anymore. She was the storm that had cleared the rot, and the ghost that would never be thanked for it. Detective Callahan handed in his badge under pale fluorescent lights. No press. No farewell. Just a cardboard box and a folded flag. "You did good," the commissioner muttered. But it rang hollow. Callahan had spent years walking the edge, playing the politics, letting his gut rot while pretending it was duty. Now, with the badge gone, the ghosts spoke louder. He passed the wall of fallen officers. Delaney's photo had been taken down. But the damage, still framed in every corner of that building. As he stepped into the street, he felt lighter, but lonelier. Truth had a cost, and it was always paid in silence. Vega stood before a small grave, with no name, just a stone angel cracked in the shoulder. He lit a cigarette and dropped his old dog tags at its base. "I never made it right," he said. "But I made it end." He didn't cry. He never had that luxury. Instead, he turned toward the waiting car and Ava behind the wheel. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Survivors don't need words. Just momentum. As the car pulled into traffic, Vega looked back one last time. "Rest easy, brother," he whispered. Not to the grave. To the kid he used to be, the one who thought loyalty was armor. Now he knew better. It was a blade. The city council chambers sat half-empty now, echoing with the absence of the corrupt. New blood had filled a few seats. Idealists, the media said. But Ava knew better. She watched from the balcony, hidden in plain sight. The system didn't purge itself. She had gutted it. And now, the vultures circled again. One senator laughed with a banker. Another handed off a sealed envelope. Different faces. Same rot. Ava walked out before the session ended. The war wasn't over. It had just changed uniforms. And this time, she wouldn't fight in the open. She'd be the shadow in their rearview mirror, the silence they could never trace. Somewhere in Brooklyn, inside a nondescript brick building, a small file was locked in a steel drawer. Operation Sparrow closed. No public access. No media follow-up. Just silence. The world had moved on. But Ava hadn't. She wrote Vincent's name in a notebook she kept in her pocket, beside two others, hers and Callahan's. Not to mourn, but to remind. Ghosts don't leave scars. They leave questions. And the kind of justice they brought didn't wear robes or badges. It walked alone. Ava stepped into the night, her breath misting in the cold. There was no retirement for people like her. Just shadows. And work to finish. A year later, the city had forgotten. Headlines faded. Protests vanished. But in the quiet corners, in alley whispers and midnight wiretaps, the list still haunted the underworld. Ava sat in a Bronx cafe, hair shorter, voice quieter, presence colder. She wasn't hiding. She was hunting. A waitress slid her a note with the bill. Just a name and time. No signature. She folded it, tucked it inside her coat, and finished her coffee. Ava wasn't just a witness anymore. She was the cleanup crew no one asked for, but everyone feared. She didn't trust justice. She trusted patterns. And someone just stepped into the same footprints Delaney once left. That was their mistake. Vega ran a garage in Queens now. Fixed engines by day, buried secrets by night. But his burner phone never stopped ringing. "I am out," he'd tell them. But then he'd show up anyway, quiet and ready. Tonight he opened his mailbox and found a photo. His face circled, a red feather taped to the back. He didn't call Ava. He just packed a duffel and loaded his pistol. They weren't done with him. And he was tired of running. "If they want ghosts," he muttered, "I'll show them hell instead." Behind him, his engine roared to life. The road ahead was dark. But he had driven darker. Detective Callahan now walked past the precinct instead of through its doors. He taught self-defense at a community center 2 blocks away. Kids with fire in their eyes, hearts still unbroken. Some nights, he stared at the badge he never turned in. Other nights, he couldn't even look. But when a boy asked, "Did you ever shoot a bad guy?" Callahan just smiled. "They don't wear signs, kid. They wear suits." He stepped outside for a smoke, rain starting to fall. Across the street, a black sedan idled too long. He didn't flinch. Some ghosts come to haunt. Others? They come to ask if you've still got it. He always did. The council had changed, but not enough. New suits, old rot. A backroom deal signed in February led to 3 families evicted in April. Ava watched from across the street, camera in hand, snapping photos no one else dared take. She wasn't interested in exposure. She wanted leverage. She built her own list now, names, dates, dirty secrets. One day, a reporter cornered her. "Are you the woman who took down Delaney?" Ava didn't pause. "He took himself down. I just lit the match." Her voice was flat. Her eyes never left the building. "You don't destroy corruption. You learn its shape. And then you starve it from the roots." She walked into the funeral, wearing the same coat she killed Delaney in. It was Vega's cousin, stabbed in the dark, no known enemies. But Ava knew better. Retaliation never died. It just paused. Callahan stood at the back, nodded once. Vega never showed. She left a black envelope on the casket. Inside, a name, a photo, and a feather burned at the edges. The cycle didn't end with Delaney. It just lost its king. The city didn't get cleaner, just quieter. And in the silence, Ava moved like smoke. Ghosts don't leave behind echoes. They leave instructions. One name at a time.